Most professional poker players devote countless hours to studying strategy, from understanding solvers to learning exploits for their player pools. Alongside their busy grinding schedules, they put a lot of time into getting better at the game. Yet they often struggle to play their best poker when it matters most. Their focus drifts during sessions. They find themselves making emotional decisions too often. They lack consistency. And there's a big gap between the poker player they are capable of being and the version of themselves that shows up most days. That's because there's a crucial element to performance that most players overlook. What if you approach poker not just as a game, but as a sport? What if you trained for it like an athlete? What's up guys, it's Mindset Performance Coach Adam Carmichael here. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to train like an athlete so that you can play like a pro. Now this doesn't mean you spend all day in the gym or out doing cardio. It means that you train specific skills and develop them so that you can play your best poker more consistently. What separates athletes from the average person is how they train. And what could separate you from the average poker player is if you trained like an athlete. Now athletes break down their sport into specific skills and attributes, and they methodically train them over weeks and years so that they can perform at their best when it matters most. Take the example of a 100-meter sprinter. You couldn't get a more simple event. You run in a straight line as fast as you can. Yet the training that goes into becoming a world-class sprinter is immense. On top of the regular speed work you're doing to improve your top speed, you're going to be doing speed endurance sessions, which are way longer than the 100 meters, often 200 meters, 300 meters, and further, to improve your speed endurance so that you can run multiple rounds at a championships. You'll be doing strength work with a personal trainer to improve your speed out the blocks and your acceleration. You'll be doing drills and technical work to fine-tune your technique so you're as efficient as possible at running in a straight line. You'll be doing plyometric work and bounding work to improve your power and elasticity, and it goes on and on just with the physical training. You'll then have a full team working on your recovery, from your nutritionist who's picking everything that goes into your body, from supplements to all your meal plans. You'll be having a physiotherapist to make sure you're not getting injured and keeping your muscles loose. You might even have a sleep coach in order to optimize your sleep at night, and all of these go into recovering from the training you're doing. You might even have a sports psychologist to make sure that your mind is primed and optimized for the event. All of this so that when it's race day, it's the Olympic final, everything is on the line. He knows he's done everything he can and he's ready to perform at his best. Now, when we think about an athlete, we instinctively think, of course they should be training. Of course they should be doing everything they can to improve their performance. That's their job, right? Yet, when it comes to poker, almost nobody thinks about it the same way. Most poker players approach poker like an amateur. They play and study most days, yet they aren't training the other skills that are needed to really improve. It would be like a 100-meter sprinter entering a race every weekend, doing speed sessions during the week, and then on race day, his times don't improve. His approach is too one-dimensional. He can't expect to continue to get results from one avenue of training. And this is the same with poker players. They often acquire more and more knowledge with their studying, but their performance and results overall aren't improving. So let's get practical and think, how can you approach poker like an athlete? Well, first of all, you need to have a specific goal to optimize towards. For an athlete, that's often quite simple. It's running a faster race, it's getting more points or scoring more goals in a game, or some other performance metrics which are quite clear. For the sake of this video, let's assume that your goals are to become as good as you can at poker and to play as high a stakes as possible. Now what we need to do is identify the key skills that will have the biggest impact on your performance. Now, having worked with over 500 players over the past 6 years, I've identified 8 skills that will have the biggest impact on your overall poker performance. Each of these skills can be trained from a low beginner level to a high elite level with specific training. Some of these skills you will already be good at, and others will be your weaknesses. As I go through each of the skills, try to relate them to yourself and honestly assess, is it a strength or is it a weakness? Pro tip, if you're not naturally talented at the skill and you haven't done specific training to improve the skill, it's likely a weakness. So let's dive into the first skill of self-awareness. Now, if you want to move up stakes or achieve things you haven't achieved before, the skill of self-awareness is essential. And this is because we often limit ourselves. We create what's known as belief systems that stop us from moving forward. We tell ourselves based on our past experiences what we can do and what we can't do. And although this seems illogical on many levels, we all do it, and it limits our growth and progression everywhere. So the first step of self-awareness is identifying where you are blocking yourself, identifying the beliefs that hold you back. This could be around how much money you can make based on your past experiences, what stakes you're capable of beating, who you're capable of becoming going forward. And you've really got to get clear on, where do I tell myself stories? It's all a story narrative in the mind that stops me from progressing forward. All right, so this is all the knowledge and understanding where you're currently at and where you're blocking yourself. The second stage comes with creating new belief systems. How do you create a belief system that's in alignment with your values and your goals going forward? In the final stage of self-awareness, or final step I like to teach, is build a new identity and the character traits needed to achieve your goals. All right, so it's almost like three phases. The first is like the knowledge phase of where you're currently at and where you're stuck. The second phase becomes like training and upgrading your belief systems in alignment with your values. And the third phase is all about performance, your identity, who you need to be going forward. All right, so that's just an overview of how self-awareness works. And if you want to keep progressing, you need to be constantly upgrading yourself. The version of you right now is good for what you're currently doing, but if you want to achieve new things or higher things, you need to get past the limiting beliefs and create a new identity of yourself that's capable of achieving new things. All right, so that's skill number one. The second skill is emotional regulation. All right, and the first part of emotional regulation for poker players is building emotional awareness. All right, this is almost like going through your days and realizing what emotions you're experiencing most frequently. What emotions are dragging you around? Is it frustration? Is it anger? Is it annoyance? Is it a little bit of anxiety? Which emotions are you running into more frequently? All right, a lot of players, when I work with them, they haven't built a framework for building awareness of their emotions. All right, they haven't got enough kind of knowledge of what emotions they're experiencing. All right, so the first thing is build that emotional awareness. The second phase is all about understanding triggers and responses. All right, this is the stuff where the things that annoy you, the things that cause an emotional response. For poker players, this is often very easy to identify. It's the things that make you tilt, get frustrated, get angry, get annoyed, make mistakes at the poker tables. The things that create an emotional response. But we need to get really clear on this, of mapping it out. What's the trigger and what's the response that I'm getting, and how is it impacting me in a negative way? When it comes to emotional regulation, the goal is not to be some Zen monk. It's to be able to experience everything as a poker player, to have emotions come up as they do, but to be in control. And for your responses at the poker tables with your actions to be very in alignment with your most logical self. And this is one of the skills that requires a lot of work. Almost no poker player I've come across is naturally amazing at this skill. They've got to do a lot of work to train themselves to understand the triggers and responses. All right, but the final skill of this, avenue of this skill, is the performance element, and this is all about changing or reprogramming your mind for poker. And this is understanding that the trigger and response kind of relationship, I can intercept that in the midpoint by changing the meaning that I give events. All right, think about it. Right, let's say you have a bad beat at the poker tables, and your mind labels this: why am I so unlucky? Why is this happening to me? The response down chain of that is annoyance, frustration, anger. I didn't get my way. All right. However, if we go back to that same trigger, you have a bad beat, lose a big pot, and we learn to change the meaning of that event. This is just variance. This is how things happen. This is part of the game. We can quickly change that response. All right. So there's understanding what emotions you're experiencing, what's the triggers, what's the response you're having, and then reprogramming by going into the meaning. All right, I won't go super deep into each of the skills. Today I just want to give you an overview of what the skills are, and hopefully you can see why they're important for your overall poker performance. All right, the third skill is focus. This is a skill that most players will say they want more of. They want to be able to focus at a higher level. And the first part of focus comes with directing and sustaining your attention. All right, so a lot of players don't think about focus as a skill, but it's basically where's my attention? Is my attention distracting my thoughts, something in my peripheral awareness, or is it where I need it to be? Is it on the thing, the action, or the thing I'm trying to learn or study in this moment? All right, so the first thing is, can I direct and sustain that attention? What you'll notice is you can't. All right, you can't do it for long. So the next skill becomes spotting when your attention drifts and then bringing it back. All right, so almost like try to sustain your attention, spot when it's drifted to something else, and then bring it back. Drifted, bring it back, drifted, bring it back. And this is the training part. So the knowledge part is knowing how to direct it, and the training part is knowing how to bring it back. All right, obviously meditation is a great skill to do this out of game, but you also need to be training this skill every single poker session, every single study session. It's almost like I need to be in control of where my attention is. When it's drifted, I need to be able to spot when it's drifted and bring it back every single time. And that's like doing bicep curls for the brain, as I like to call it. It's like doing repetitions to strengthen that focus muscle. And then finally, you need to learn how to optimize your focus, how to be at peak focus for your poker sessions and peak focus for your study sessions. This is creating a whole routine around taking breaks at the right time, optimizing your mind so that your focus is alert when you need to be, and also switching off when you need to, right? So it's this on-off relationship and how to optimize your focus throughout your days. Unfortunately, we can't be 10 out of 10 focus for 8 hours consistently. It just doesn't work that way. Our brains are not capable of that kind of performance. So we need to work in the realms of what the brain's capable of and to create an optimal focus routine for ourselves. So when we need to be switched on, we're at a high level, and then when we need to switch off to recover, we can do that as well. Then the fourth skill poker players need is resilience. And this is the ability to deal with adversity, things not going your way, and to return back to your physical and emotional baseline quickly. All right, it doesn't mean you don't get annoyed, it doesn't mean you don't get upset or frustrated. It means that happens, but then you quickly return to your current state. And in the knowledge phase, when I teach the skill, I like to talk about going from fragile to anti-fragile. All right, so think of a glass. If I drop a glass, smashes, fragile, right? And a lot of poker players are fragile. They have a bad session, their emotions get all over the place, and they start making mistakes. They're fragile because when things get disturbed, they break. They break down emotionally, or they can't deal with it to play the best poker. However, anti-fragile things are on the other end of the spectrum. All right, think of a muscle in the gym. You do a bicep curl, rip all the muscle fibers, which sounds like a bad thing. Have good nutrition, sleep well, and all of a sudden that muscle grows back stronger. Not only did it deal with the adversity of the repetition, it's actually stronger. And as humans, we have this unique ability to grow stronger from adversity. All right, if you look at mentally tough people, if you think of the most mentally tough person you think, for me, someone like David Goggins comes to mind. The amount of adversity they've went through is crazy, like so much hard times, and they're now even more anti-fragile, right? They haven't been not broken down, they've become stronger from the adversity they've taken on. All right, we can incorporate this concept into ourselves as well, so that poker and tough times make us stronger. All right, this is one of the things my poker athletes often refer to. They're often like, I'm going for a tough time right now, building my resilience. Things aren't going my way, awesome time, I'm working on resilience. I love that framing because it shows that even when things aren't going well, we're still working and building important skills. The second part of resilience is the training aspect, which is becoming mentally tough. And this is where you literally put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Frequently, you take on adversity, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, in order to challenge yourself and then to create a response and to recover from that. All right, so it's become mentally tough through taking on challenges that are outside our comfort zone. It's surprising how few people take on challenges and consciously choose to do hard things. Most of us steer towards easy choices, comfortable things, which sounds like a smart move, but in reality, it ends up making us weak and we lack resilience. So we need to find a way to consistently, on a daily and weekly basis, build in things that are going to challenge us in order to become tougher and build more resilience. And then finally, the performance element of resilience is all about building a battle-hardened mind like a stoic. All right, I really love the Greek Stoic philosophies and their approaches because they're super practical, and they basically lived thousands of years ago, but they developed lots of practices in order to live our best lives and perform at our best during adversity. All right, so the last aspect is, how do I use the training I've been doing to go into a poker session and feel ready to perform my best? And when things happen in the context of playing poker or any other performance avenue, how can I deal with that in order to make me stronger and deal with that? So we've got this element of understanding that things aren't going to go our way, and generally we're fragile to adversity, then becoming mentally tough through specific training, and then putting that training to the test in the performance avenue of poker and seeing which tools you've got available to use to perform better. All right, and the goal is, over time, can less and less things affect you? And when things do affect you in a negative way emotionally, can you get back to playing your best poker quickly? All right, so this is huge if you want to play a lot of volume, if you want to move up stakes or take on challenges. You've got to build resilience into your days and into your weeks. Skill number 5 is perspective. And this is such a super powerful skill that allows you to see situations in a way that helps you and moves you forward. All right, so the first kind of knowledge of the skill, what you need to learn, is that you often have faulty mental models. You almost have a clouded vision of reality. It's like walking around with some glasses on, which have a certain filter on them, and you see life through that filter. And you don't realize that it's just a filter. It's not the actual world you're seeing it through a lens. And most of us have quite negative lenses, all right? And I teach players why the mind creates a lot of shortcuts and faulty mental models that take you away from your goals. But the first step is identifying what these faulty mental models are and how they're negatively impacting you. The second part of perspective is all about looking at the way we observe our world and getting back into reality. All right, and I like to think about this one as observing like a Stoic. All right, again, the Stoics have really good frameworks for bringing things back to what they control and what they don't control. If their mind's ever thinking about things they don't control, so for you guys, it's your poker results, it's your win rates, it's all the things like external that we have a kind of impact on, but we don't ultimately control. If your attention's on that, you're missing out opportunities to focus on what you do control. It's also about realizing that things aren't going to go your way and being okay with that. Being okay with things not going your way. There's a great quote by Epictetus which says, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but rather wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." All right, back in tune with reality. Instead of spending time wishing how things would go, we get back in tune. This is how it is, and I deal with it. All right, that's the training part of it, where you learn how to observe more and more situations from this neutral perspective. And then finally, it's all about widening your perspective. How do you zoom out and see the bigger picture? All right. If you look, for example, at your results through a hour by hour filter, it's going to be up and down, really choppy. However, if you look at your results from a year graph or your whole career graph from a zoomed out, it's very often going to look a lot smoother. All right. So we need to train ourselves in life to look at the bigger picture, to zoom out, to see what is actually the reality of things and not get sucked in to the day-to-day swings of results, of variance, of things not going our way. And the bigger the lens we can take, often the smoother the ride is. All right, and that's the performance element. Skill number 6 is presence. And I like to teach this skill by giving poker players 2 different mindsets that they can be in. The first is the training mindset. And most poker players are very familiar with this one. It's calculating, it's effortful, it's judging, it's always trying to calculate stuff and make decisions, but it's very effortful. It's very thinking and calculating oriented. Then on the other side, we have the performance mindset. And the performance mindset is much more effortless, it's much more empty, it's much more intuitive, it's much more instinctive and creative and playful. All right, so we've got these 2 different mindsets. Now, for studying poker, I would strongly argue that the trainer mindset is most beneficial. All right, being able to calculate things, come up with strategies, look at solvers, really think through stuff in a critical manner. However, when it comes to playing your best poker, I would also argue the performance mindset will trump the trainer mindset every day of the week. All right, this intuitive mindset of letting yourself use your instincts and intuitive plays and go with your reads as much as possible is going to be better than overthinking stuff. So once you understand these 2 mindsets, you can watch yourself playing poker and going through your days and seeing which of these mindsets you're spending most of your time in. If you're like most of the poker players I've spoke with, they often spend most of the time in the trainer mindset, and I try to steer them more towards the performance mindset. Now, one of the challenges that gets in the way is fear. All right, fear of making mistakes, fear of losing. We don't want to trust ourselves too much, because if once we make a mistake and we lose money, or we get owned by an opponent. So we then go back to the trainer mindset. It's almost like we don't trust ourselves enough to use our intuition, we go back to the trainer mindset. So the training part of this skill set is all about allowing yourself to be fearless, all right, and training yourself to overcome fears and stick to that performance mindset over and over. Even when you have doubt, even when you're struggling to trust yourself fully, how do you steer more and more to that performance mindset and allowing yourself to make the plays you feel like you should in the moment? And the final part becomes turning on the performance mindset on demand. All right, so the performance element is not only understanding the performance mindset, but how do you stay in it for most of your session? How do you turn it on when you start your session? And then when things are happening in your environment that trigger you to go into the trainer mindset, how do you bring yourself back to the performance mindset? So that gives an overview of the skill of presence, and you need to get yourself to be in that performance mindset more frequently. Skill number 7 is stress mastery. And this is understanding that your nervous system governs your performance. And it's also realizing that poker is innately stressful. You're going to be losing money frequently. Things are not going to be going your way very often. And we need to realize that the stress response in our body, in our physiology, is going to get triggered very often in the context of playing poker. All right, understanding that this is part of the game and being okay with that, being comfortable. So once you understand how the nervous system works, I try to educate players exactly what is happening in their body, you then learn to use that stress response in order to improve your performance. All right, and the goal is to widen your range of tolerance for stress. All right, think about that. Rather than lowering stress, you want to be able to perform at your best under wider and wider ranges of stress. Think of athletes, think of an Olympic champion. He can perform very, very high level under a very, very high amount of stress. Think of someone who's got the weight of the world on their shoulders, like the elite performer. It could be a singer, it could be a dancer. Everyone's watching them, and not only do they perform well, they perform at their best. Why? Because they can handle a wide range of tolerance and perform at their best. All right, so you want to be able to widen your tolerance for stress overall by training yourself to deal with more stress, but also to perform more and more under stress. And then finally, you want to know how to activate your optimal activation level for peak performance. All right, so this is like a bell curve. So the bell curve goes up like this. In the middle of a bell curve is the peak performance. If you go too far, this will be the kind of overactivated. If you go too far this way, this will be the underactivated. And your goal as a poker player is to realize where in this kind of curve is my optimal, and what do I need to do to prime my physiology, my body, and my mind to be in this optimal state. All right, so I teach players how to go through the zones and the activation zones, but how to get into your optimal activation zone regularly. All right, so about your preparation routine, what you're doing physically with your body, and make sure that you're edging towards that optimal activation as often as possible. And the final skill, number 8, is energy optimization. And this is realizing that for everything we want to do in life, we need energy. Energy is the currency of everything we're trying to do. So first of all, you need to know how energy is created in the body, and then how to fuel your mind and body so you can perform at your best for high output. All right, so we need to think about nutrition, supplements, fueling strategies, and the things we put in our body in order to generate energy. But we also need to understand what is energy and how we create it. All right, so that's the first thing you need to know. Then you need to train your body's energy systems. And this is generally through exercise and different training modalities to make sure you've got more energy created. Our bodies don't just create energy by chance, all right? And the systems in the body that create the energy. And once we understand, okay, this is how I fuel my body to give myself the building blocks. This is how I train the system so that when I need energy, I've got it. And you can build a whole routine so you've got energy more frequently. And the final step becomes optimizing your days for high energy output, all right? And thinking how you can create this ultimate morning till night time with some peaks and some recovery so your energy levels are high when you need them to be, and you've also got that recovery so they're consistently high over long periods of time. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of the 8 skills. I know I went through them all very quickly and very broadly, but hopefully it gives you a good understanding of what skills you need to work on, and if you relate them to yourself, which ones are strengths that you've done a lot of work on or you're naturally good at, and which of them are potentially weaknesses. Now, the key thing from all of this going forward is, how do you consistently train these skills? How do you get better at them? All right, it's great to have a good baseline. It's good to have natural talent. But honestly, I'm much more interested in how to get better at these skills over time. This is where following a systemized training program really comes into play. Imagine that you are able to train each of these skills in a methodical way. At the start of a week, you are given assessments to see what your current level is for each skill. You are then given the training and knowledge of how to improve that skill, and then a training program specifically targeted at your current level. All right, so for example, if you're a beginner at a skill, you're given a beginner program aimed to get you to an intermediate. If you're an intermediate, you have a program that's aimed to get you to an elite. All right, so you're taking on training relative to where you're currently at. Then at the end of a week, you are able to reassess your skills to see how much you'd improved. And let's say you are doing this with a coach who's guiding you through this process and alongside other motivated players who are also training their skills in the same way. How much do you think you'd be able to progress your skills in that environment? Well, if you're like the other 50 poker players I've coached through the system, your progress would be amazing. Now in the next video, I want to show you exactly how that system is set up and how you can train your skills in a very methodical way in order to get amazing results long term. I'll show you how to design a system and how to continually be improving with a very specific approach that guarantees that over time, your skills get better and better and your performance continues to improve. It's going to be an eye-opening video for a lot of you guys, so stay tuned for that in the coming days. In the meantime, smash the like button before you go, and I'll see you guys in the next video.